people of the internet. It is Dave, it is Duncan, back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. For this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from UK heavy progressive rock outfit Giant Walker. The band's new album, Silhouettes, will be released on September 20th via Church Road Records.
Hello.
Hello. Newcastle's eclectic rock outfit Giant Walker are back to deliver a masterclass in heaviness and musicianship with their sophomore LP, Silhouettes. After individually relocating 300 miles to further develop their craft, the Geordie Quartet was coincidentally born in the south, bound together by their northern heritage and a shared love for bands such as Karnivool, Soundgarden, Radiohead and Deftones. Their music captures the many lows of loneliness and tips a hat to the music that gets you through hard times, sweeping you up in a conceptual journey from giant riffs to melancholic melodies and ambient soundscapes. Giant Walker has stitched together a sound woven from the fabric of their influences that can't be found elsewhere. Teaming with producer and collaborator Chris Coulter, Silhouettes further develops Giant Walker's musical range, melding elegant melody with a sturdy musical backbone, which results in a 9-track presentation worthy of all the hype the band has generated thus far, and more. So, there we go. Giant Walker. I was interested in this for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I enjoyed their previous album back in 2022, All in Good Time.
I didn't hear that, did I?
I don't know.
No, we didn't cover
didn't
that.
Review it.
So. No, that's fine then.
I'm trying to think if someone else reviewed it on the site. I can't quite remember. It was self-released, so to hear that they had signed with, in my opinion, one of the best UK labels going right now.
Yeah.
I had a good feeling that this band were onto something and we're going to do like bigger things in the future. And the debut was very good. Like, it was very polished, super confident, very well produced. But still had left kind of room for them to grow as well. So yeah, I was interested to hear what they would bring on album 2 on Silhouettes. So what to say about Silhouettes? I think this sounds like, for me, it sounds like the next stage of Giant Walker. Great name, by the way, Giant Walker.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing name. Straight off the bat, though, on this album, there just seems to be it's got more swagger about it. Like the first track,
the riffs on this are ridiculous.
That Time to Waste, that opener is girthy, man. That is just when it kicked in, I was like, gee, that big bendy groove, just really confident as an album opener, and unbelievably tight. Straight away I was like, oh right, okay, we've kind of leveled up a little bit here. There's a bit more kind of cohesion to this. There's a bit tighter, and they don't fuck around on it either. It's 3 minutes, so they don't spend too much time on this teasing bits out and building things up. It's just here you go, here's an absolute banger just to set this album off. And they those big those hooks that they had those on the previous album as well. They don't take long to kind of unveil themselves either. Within the first minute, I was singing along to the chorus straight away. I was like, all right, here we go, I'm in. And Steph, the vocalist on the previous album, I thought she was great. She was a highlight on that album for sure. But there's a kind of conviction in her delivery on this one that just feels more kind of direct, which I really liked. And before I knew it, that track was over. It didn't, as I said, didn't really go anywhere experimental or deviate from the plan. It just kind of gets in, it hits you with all the groove and all the hooks, and then it's on to the next track. But I kind of love that they followed that up with something that's totally different in tempo and rhythm, but also kept the kind of momentum of the album moving. Make Me is a slightly more intricate in the guitar work. You can hear more alternative and some more kind of progressive influences coming through on that one, but still has those more like restrained moments where they kind of just let a really thick riff just kind of take control, and it puts you into like that kind of headbang mode. It's also a track that lets Steph push her range even further, and display a bit more of a kind of ethereal style. Killer harmonies, like plenty of dynamics, and again, they don't push the length of the track any further than it needs to be either. I think the title track was the kind of first moment of the album where you kind of hear the band settle down slightly, push something with a bit more kind of like emotional weight to it. Really cool mix of textures on that one. There's a bit of acoustic guitar. It doesn't get overly technical at all, really. It's more of a kind of straight down the line, almost kind of ballad type track. But I like the fact they don't abandon the heaviness completely either. That track still has a big kind of chunky section in the middle, which gives the track a nice balance. Also ends really well. They go into a kind of almost like jazz lounge mode at the end, and little rim shots on the snare and a sexy wee clean guitar solo as well. And to be honest, I'd usually be against something so kind of slow coming into an album that early on, but actually I thought it kind of worked. The switch ups that they used on the track kind of made it all work together, which I quite enjoyed. And I think that's the thing with Giant Walker. They are very good at constructing an album that gives you a really good balance of everything, without they never overdo any part of their sound. They know exactly when to pull it back, and just spend time on a more kind of delicate moment, or when to ramp it up and give you something with a bit more weight to it. Such an easy album to listen to. I think I spun this about 5 times maybe.
Oh yeah, easy.
One of those releases, you just hit play and you're just kind of in for the ride. And I think a lot of that comes from the quality of the songwriting from Giant Walker. You can hear that the arrangements and the kind of choice of like chord progressions on this one, it seemed far more effective to me, more to the point in places. I felt definitely more hooked into this than I did on All in Good Time. It's also a shade shorter than the debut, which I think also works in its favour. It's nothing huge in terms of length, but I think there is a cut-off point with this style where it can maybe start to become a bit overcooked. But I think the length of this one is pretty much spot on, to be honest. I also think there's been a bit more of a conscious effort to push more of Giant Walker's own kind of flavour and character on this one. I found it much easier to liken them to other artists on the last album. On this one, although there's still influences there, it's not nearly as noticeable as it was on that previous album. And I think that's just from the band kind of starting to push certain styles a little more on this one. It's still a heavily progressive album, but you can hear those alternative rock and even kind of grunge characteristics coming through a little more, which I think has opened their sound up a bit. The kind of grunge vibes, they definitely came through more on this one than they did on the debut. Some of the chord choices, and some of the vocal melodies as well, actually, on Halcyon and Round and Round We Go. I was getting little kind of hints of Soundgarden or even Silverchair at points as well. But it's still delivered in a way that has that kind of Giant Walker DNA through it, which was cool. I wouldn't be opposed to them pushing a wee bit more of that in the future either. I think not a lot to complain about. I really enjoyed this. I think for me the only thing was that towards the end of the album, I felt like it started to retread maybe the same tempo a little too much. I was kind of waiting towards the end of the album. I was waiting for a little bit more pace in the end, just to kind of mirror that early burst that we got on Make Me, but it didn't really happen. So the tail end of the album just started to kind of wane slightly for me. But that aside, a very solid release. Production is also spot on here. Very crisp, very punch. And those quieter moments sound really kind of rich in tone as well. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. How about yourself? What'd you make of this?
So let me just say this, right? We know it's going to happen eventually, right?
What's that?
At some point, now I'm just going to put ideas out. This is what I do. Put them out into the ether. hopefully someone picks up and runs with them.
Right.
At some point in the future, our boys in Abrams are going to come to the UK. And see, when they come to the UK, Giant Walker should be the opening band. Like that, like honestly, that's what they reminded me of. Not like in terms of heaviness, but that kind of nostalgic itch getting scratched for something kind of 90s alternative. But with this kind of modern burst of energy and heaviness. I'm glad that you mentioned and their name has just escaped me. They had the album was Themata. Karnivool. I'm glad you mentioned that because, like, specifically vocally, there are shades of there's kind of soaring melodies that you get from Karnivool.
Yep.
This is an album that has three things that make it incredibly Moorish, but also like ridiculously dangerous in terms of the re-listen value. First one, you mentioned it, vocals are brilliant, and they never settle into a comfortable range ever, actually. There will be interludes where they'll opt for something a bit kind of more subdued and then let the choruses carry songs through. Then there's songs where like the chorus is like an absolute earworm, but actually the melody that she goes on to hit in the interlude just soars in areas that I'm just so enamored with, I think is the easiest way to say it. Second thing, riffs. Oh my good God almighty. There is a riff that comes out of I think it's the interlude on Erasa Obscura. Right. And it's kind of the full setup. You're getting like a kick drum doing the 4, but you get this kind of really rapid build up of the snare roll, and it kicks into maybe the bounciest, genty, head-bangingest riff that's ever existed. The riffs on here are a secret weapon in that they are instantly memorable, and you can feel yourself going like you're all over the place doing that as much as you are singing the melody. So you've got that. I can't tell you how many albums I listen to with the melodies in my head, but you ask me what the guitar's doing underneath, and I can't fucking tell you. This one, I have both those things locked in, with the melodies maybe not the most memorable thing. It's a kick-ass fucking killer riff, and the kind of vice versa. The last thing, the bass production on this is fucking hench. This is one of these things where you're listening to it and like you're talking about that thick sound. A lot of that's coming from that bass. It just sits so nice underneath the guitar and just gives it that crunch. I was pulling so many like total like stank face moments, just going, oh, like that's fucking needless. Giant Walker kind of sound like what would happen if you took Karnivool and you took Sordid Pink.
Oh yeah.
And you kind of forced them to write something grungy. A la Abrams. It's kind of like the thing in between them. They never go polyrhythmic like Sordid Pink.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that kind of heavy crunch and those soaring melodies that reminded me of that. And we've been speaking too much over the last year of why there's not a new Sordid Pink album, and I didn't realise how much I was needing something in a similar bubble just to make my year feel fulfilled, and this is certainly here. Church Road is the natural fit. I mean, UK based, really well produced. A band like this could slot in God knows how many tours comfortably, and if they perform half as good live as they do on CD, we are just in for a ball when we finally get a chance to check them out. I was thoroughly impressed with this. I know what you're saying. I think, and weirdly, I mentioned Sordid Pink. Sordid Pink kind of has a similar thing for me towards the end of the album, where I kind of feel like I know the band's tricks now, and you're not really pushing things beyond that. I think we sometimes, as reviewers, because we are spoiled with some of the most eclectic out there fucking music, that we're always kind of waiting for the next trick at the end of an album, and we kind of forget that sometimes bands just have a sound, and that sound plays for an entire album, and there doesn't need to be another string to that bow, or there doesn't need to be like a wink and a nudge to this is what's coming next. This is just supremely confident. This just feels like album 7, like not album 2. It sounds like a band that just are comfortable in their own skin, comfortable in their own sound. They know exactly what they want to do, and they've shoved it on this album here. The runtime is perfect, and I like how you only really get 2 ballads here, one being the title track Silhouette and the second to last closer Say You Say, which is a kind of quieter moment. Really, those are the only ones that kind of lean into that. But other songs pepper in ideas, whether it's with acoustic guitars or quieter moments where it's never like, all right, that's the ballad. Like when you listen to fucking a Buckcherry album, you're like, all right, this is the ballad. And then every other song's about shagging like prostitutes, and you're like, this ballad feels why are you singing about your dead mum 2 seconds after you're talking about railing fucking hookers and snorting blow off corpses? You know what I mean? There's a part of me where I'm like that. I always get like bands that just do the obligatory ballad and it doesn't fit with the rest. It always kind of makes me wonder, why is this song here? But they have linking connections through all their stuff. And I will say one more thing, because the vocals are so nice, clear and crisp, lyrically, this is a really interesting album. I think it plays with a lot of textures that mirror what the music's doing. So I think you should be immensely proud of what they pulled together. Happy to hear that Church Road are doing the release. They will do them well, and I don't think I'm shattering any preconceived conceptions out there when I say I don't think it'll be long before we start hearing much bigger things for Giant Walker in terms of tour exposure and all the rest on the label they're on. So yeah, this was a welcome surprise. Baffling that it's their second album. Genuinely they sound a lot further on in their sound in their journey than I would expect for a band on album number 2.
Yeah. Okay, final thing for this new one from Giant Walker, the score for this album. This is like a very kind of seamless move into the next kind of level of the Giant Walker sound. A little, a few tweaks here and there in style, but I think mainly the biggest improvement for me is the quality in the songwriting and their confidence as a band. They definitely sound more self-assured on this one. I'm going to go 4 out of 5 on this. Really enjoyed it. I think I'll come back to it quite a bit because it's just a really kind of feel-good, kind of like big riffs album, which I thoroughly enjoyed. What about yourself? What are you thinking?
Big Davey, we have an accord. I'm coming in with a 4 as well.
Ooh.
Like super excited to hopefully check these guys out live soon. No excuse, they're in the UK.
Well, there is a little bit of disappointment there to give you, Duncan.
What, they've disbanded.
They are playing the UK.
Yeah.
They are playing Scotland.
Yeah.
They are playing Edinburgh on the 6th of October, which is the same night as Orange Goblin and Conan.
Right.
Which we're already going to.
Yes, we are already going to that.
Yeah.
However, they're UK based. This is not only going to be the only time they're out. We will catch them again, and I'm sure if the band are checking that out, they'll realise they shouldn't have booked a date in Edinburgh the same night that Orange Goblin and Conan were playing at Tuts.
Yeah.
Like Conan at Tuts almost feels like an unfair trump card.
It does.
It's like have you ever played Top Trumps? Superhero Edition, it's like Silver Surfer, it's all maxed out. You're like that. Oh, I see your... Can't think of any other character. I see your thing, Silver Surfer. And they're like, oh no, here's all my cards. And you're like, ah. So yeah, we will catch Giant Walker at some point in the future.
We will see them on the next run.
Yes.
But yeah, check them out. They're going on a UK tour from the start of October through England, Scotland, all the good places. Playing Legends in Edinburgh on the 6th of October if you fancy it.
Cool.
So that is the new album from Giant Walker, Silhouettes, out on 20th of September on Church Road Records. Links below to the band, to the pre-order. Check it out, have a listen, see what you think. That is the review. Thank you for checking out, much appreciated. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye everyone.